This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Hey guys, Big Paul here. Today we are going to talk about Phenoplex, Trenbolone for cows. Why does this matter for bodybuilding? I'll tell you, people use Tren all the time and they really have no idea what it does and how it works. And I think if you take a look at the application in cattle, that can give you a better idea of how we should use Trenbolone in bodybuilding and what it actually does and what benefit that we get out of it that we don't get out of other steroids. It's kind of a really unique compound. I know I've talked about it before. I have a love-hate relationship with Tren. It really makes me feel like shit. But nothing that I have ever used improves my body composition like Tren does. It works magic on body composition. I really like to save it for contest prep. I know some dudes run it year round. I think you're asking for it if you do. We're not really going to dig into the health part of it today. I kind of want to look at the application in cattle, and we'll take it from there and talk about how that translates into use in bodybuilding. All right, so the page I have up here is from a veterinary sales place. Back in the day, you don't have to deal with this shit now, but back in the day, bodybuilders used to make Tren themselves from these Phenoplex tablets that they implant in cattle. It was crude, rudimentary way of making Trenbolone, and pretty terrible, to be honest with you. I remember dudes doing this all the time, but it was the only way you really could get it. There was parabolin that if you got lucky, you could score from Europe, but very few people got their hands on it. So this was the way that people made Tren back in the day. They dissolved these pellets, they converted them. There was kits you could get, and you'd make your own Trenbolone from the cattle pellets. You don't have to do that shit anymore. So Phenoplex, which is the cattle implant version of Trenbolone. Let's take a look at the application of it for cattle. Here it says, Phenoplex H is a slow-release anabolic agent containing Trenbolone acetate, which increases the rate of weight gain and improves feed efficiency in growing, finishing feedlot heifers. This product is to be used in feedlot heifers only during the last 63 days prior to slaughter. All right, so what does that have to do with bodybuilding? I grew up around farming. My uncle was a farmer. I'm kind of a country boy. And farmers would give this Phenoplex to cattle when they would sell them to the prior to selling them to the slaughterhouse, and then they would go to these feedlots or whatever. But the then the farming application, what was used for is they figured out that if they gave cows these implants in the stressful environment of a feedlot, that they could actually feed the cows less. The cows, in the stressful environment, a lot of times would end up just, basically going bad. Like meat, they would not gain weight. The meat wouldn't be as good. And they figured out that giving them the Phenoplex, they could feed the cattle less, and the cows would grow just as much, if not more. And that it seemed to mitigate some of the stress that the cattle were put under before slaughter. And Trenbolone has this unique attribute where it seems to be, anecdotally speaking, the only anabolic where you can be in a caloric deficit and still gain muscle. That's what makes it such a unique compound for recomposition. And that is why it's used in feed efficiency with cattle, to improve feed efficiency. It's basically to save money before they send the cows off to slaughter, and to keep the cattle healthy as well. Trenbolone has this unique property of glucocorticoid suppression, where it suppresses cortisol, the stress hormone, as well, which makes it really unique as well in bodybuilding. There are others that do it to a certain degree, but none seem to be as powerful as Trenbolone. So this makes Trenbolone an ideal agent to use when you're in contest prep. That last part of contest prep where you're in a very stressful environment, you're also in a caloric deficit. So we want to improve feed efficiency. When we're in a caloric deficit, we want to build or hang on to muscle while we're in a caloric deficit. And Trenbolone has this unique attribute that we can do that with. A lot of guys just, think that, it's some magic muscle builder or whatever. I have found it not to be any better at building muscle when you're in a caloric surplus than something like Nandrolone that's less toxic. So Trenbolone is very toxic. It does seem to have some long-term effects on kidney health. It does seem to really, really cause high blood pressure. I've seen a lot of dudes with high blood pressure, increased heart rates. I can tell you from my own experience, my resting pulse rate goes up 15 to 20 beats per minute when I'm running Trenbolone. Even at a low dose, I'm only running 150 milligrams per week. You can see here that they're using relatively low doses with cattle. What's also neat too to think about that they also figured out they have a new product out now that they use where they actually mix estrogen and progesterone with the Trenbolone to even further improve feed efficiency and size gain when they for feedlot heifers. So that's wild to think about too, that with the additional estrogen with the Trenbolone, I saw that where it almost I read one study where it almost doubles the feed efficiency. Not that we want to be in a high estrogen environment for contest prep, but that's something interesting. We do know that there is some anabolic properties to having elevated estradiol. So guys that want to crush their estrogen in the off season, it's probably not a good idea if you want to maximize size gain. So considering this, just to kind of rehash the whole thing, think about how it's applied to the cattle and what it was used for in cattle. Feed efficiency. So we want to use Trenbolone for contest prep. It is the ideal time for contest prep. Ideal time to use it for contest prep. So save it for contest prep. Don't worry about it. It's not as effective when you're in a caloric surplus. It doesn't really make much of a difference. There are safer compounds that you can use in a caloric surplus. But where it really shines is where you're in a high stress environment and when you're in a caloric deficit. So that's what we can learn from this. That's how we apply it. Guys, if you want to get in contact with me about coaching or have a consultation call just to go through things, my contact information is below. You can see pricing on my website at anabolicbodybuilding.com. If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate you watching. Thanks.